Hello and welcome to the first episode of The Hangry Mexican. In this podcast, we're going to be talking to different people from different walks of life and see what makes them tick. I'm excited about today's episode because today's episode is very special. My first guest here is going to be my good friend Vicky Nguyen. She's a superstar. She is a heck of a journalist, and currently she's a reporter with Spectrum News 1 in Los Angeles. And she's had a very long, fruitful career as a journalist in the news industry. And I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say about all that and about her upbringing. And full disclosure, I was in Fontana at the time of the interview, at the NASCAR races at a Club Speedway, and Vicky was gracious enough to give me a bit of her time to sit down and do this interview. She's a very busy person, and after you hear this interview, I think you'll understand why. So let's get started. I can't wait for you to hear all of what she has to say. So sit back and enjoy the show. DJ, roll that music. First of all, I just want to thank you for being my first guest on this show. This is awesome.
No, it's an honor.
But also that I love the fact that you introduced me to, what's this called again, this drink?
It's an ice cream tea latte in the venti size from Starbucks. My husband actually introduced me to this, and I introduced it to you.
Yeah, I know. And now my wife, Claire, she's drinking green tea too, but she actually loves this stuff too, right?
This is like the fake tea thing, like the legit tea drinkers drink legit tea. And then, we kind of add milk to it to make it taste like a little bit more like a dessert.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I've been going on this matcha or green tea craze lately. I think we even went to go eat at this Japanese food restaurant because they had green tea ice cream. That's really the only reason.
It's the best fried green tea ice cream with a little bit of chocolate syrup drizzled on top. It's so good.
Oh man,
there's a place in Long Beach. I'll take you guys next time.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Like, you're probably one of the few people that I know that actually I think knows food. Like, you got a real good culinary experience and skill behind, you as a person. Like, when did you even start getting into this foodie craze?
Don't ask me to make food, but food, I love food. My husband and I love food. And I always tell him that the reason why I gained weight is because I got into a relationship with him. Because before then, I would never eat. I would eat once a day, and that's it. Sometimes I would forget that I didn't even eat. But then, when you're dating someone in the beginning, what do? You go hang out all the time and find places to eat. And in Orange County, that's like a lifestyle. You get in line, long lines to go eat great food. When you're done, you go get boba, you go get dessert, and then before you know it, it's time to eat again. And so you go to another place, get in line, eat, and then after that, you have to get boba or dessert. It's just the Orange County way of life. And, it didn't happen if you don't take a photo of it either. And so my friends probably hate that. But I take photos of everything I eat.
Yeah, well, I mean, your Instagram is just full of cool, pictures and adventure. I mean, I've seen your Instagram stories and you're all over the place. It's almost like practically you're there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all over the place.
Yeah, and one of the greatest things about living in SoCal is you can eat in Orange County and then just drive 20, 30 minutes to Rolling Heights Diamond Bar and eat there. And you can go back to Orange County for your dinner. And we just have so many great food. And I have to say, people in our generation, I think they are becoming business owners in Orange County, and they come up with the craziest ideas, but they work. And it's all about making food that looks good, tastes good, and most importantly, will look good in a photo on social media. And that's how they get people in. You don't even have to pay for advertisements anymore. You just need to make your food look like it's going to go viral, and people will come.
Yeah, it's very social media driven.
Yeah.
And you actually told me about this some time ago, about how Yeah, the new generation is taking things from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong too, but they take the old ways, the old recipes, and then they put a twist to them.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody knows one of Vietnamese people's staples is pho, P-H-O. People call it pho, but it's pho. And it's so good. It's great when it's cold outside and it's rainy. And even when it's like 90 degrees outside, you still want a bowl of pho. There's just something about it that makes you think of your mom or home. And there's this group of Vietnamese people who created this restaurant called Vox, V-O-X. And oh my gosh, it's like Vietnamese recipes, but then they add some sort of different twist to it to make it so younger people, younger generations will go. And they just created their own restaurant. It's called Soup, but it's spelled out S-U-P. So non-Vietnamese people would call it sup, but it's soup, meaning just soup broth. And they created this bowl of pho, which looks like it's a standard bowl of pho, but then the meat that they use, it's like good quality meat that you would eat at Shabu, and it's just, everything is just so good. I love food.
Well, one of my favorite places that you actually introduced me to as well was Slice.
Yeah.
It serves shabu.
Yeah.
Or is it shabu? I never remember.
We just call it shabu. Back in the day, we used to say shabu, but then it's like a Madonna thing where you just want to use one word, and so we just say shabu now.
Oh man! So what exactly is shabu?
Okay, so it's Japanese cuisine, and you can choose different types of meat. And so I love now I'm totally forgetting, but I like the tonkatsu broth, which is spicy pork bone broth. And then you marinate meat and you put meat inside, you dip it, and then you can dip it into different types of sauces. Sometimes people who don't like to eat like beef or pork, they can get seafood, and it's just so delicious. That's one thing that I could probably eat for the rest of my life, and I'm not even joking. My husband and I will go eat it 3 times a week. At different places, though. Every single day we would go to different places.
And I know this, Slice,
Yeah.
The server goes around and she has these little drops of really hot
drops. And they will not release the recipe for that. It's like a secret. Everywhere you go, if you ask them, hey, where'd you get your hot drops? Oh, we can't tell you. It's a secret.
Oh, man. Well, how many drops can you handle?
Oh, just one. Once they accidentally poured two drops. I ate it. I was hot, though, man. But I remember there was this one time, this little girl next to me, probably 10 years old. She asked for 7. And I just thought, oh, my goodness, she's going to die. But she totally survived just fine.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. Well, I actually was there. The last time I was there, I was with...
Bachelor party.
Exactly, the bachelor party. Yeah, with the boys. And one of my friends, he's Indian, and he loves spicy stuff, but I never really realized how spicy of anything he actually liked. So
oh my God.
I think he ended up getting 12 drops.
Okay, that's a record.
Yeah, and I was just, my jaw just dropped, and he didn't even break a sweat. That's the thing that was really impressive to me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a surreal experience, but he loved it.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone who likes savory foods, spices, or even like sour taste in their food, it's so good. It's just so fun. You're making your own food. In the beginning, honestly, the very first time I tried shabu, someone said, oh, we should go try this place. And I thought, why would I spend $30 to make my own food when someone else should make it for me? That's the whole point of going out to eat. But once I gave it a second shot, I just loved it. It was so good.
Yeah, no, well, that's one thing that I've noticed with the Asian community. It's that the food is so good, looks good, tastes good, and it's super healthy. It's almost like healthy eating, really.
If you skip the bowl of rice, it's probably going to be healthier for you. But for sure, you're eating meat, protein, and you're eating veggies, a lot of veggies. And you can even order seconds and thirds of veggie bowls. And so it's pretty healthy. The red meat, probably not too good if you eat it too often, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, I hear you on that. I try to not eat so much red meat. I usually do chicken. Chicken I can do really well, and then fish. as long as it's not super fishy, I can handle it.
It's hard to ask a fish not to be fishy.
Yeah, exactly. But for the longest time, I could not eat sushi because it just was so yucky to me. And then Claire, she reintroduced me to it, and I figured, you know what, I'm
do it for love.
Yeah, and I'm 28 years old. I shouldn't be stuck in my 12-year-old mind on food. So I tried it and I liked it, but it has to be from a good sushi place. Isn't that the rule? It has to be from an actual sushi place.
And everywhere is different. And to be honest, I don't eat fish either. And a lot of people, especially Asian people, always give me crap about this, basically. But my grandfather, he didn't like fish. And so he told my grandmother, no fish in the house. And so my grandmother on my mom's side didn't cook fish. So my mom didn't eat fish. And so none of us, myself, my sister, my brother, eat fish. And, when I went to Japan last year, that's like the mecca of fish, like the mecca of sushi. But I just couldn't eat. I just couldn't do it. I just can't. But my husband loves fish.
Wow.
But yeah, if you go to a legit good sushi place, they use such fresh fish.
Wow. And you went to Japan because it was part of your honeymoon, right?
Yeah, and we're going back next month.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, I still remember the wedding. I cannot forget that. What would you even call it? It's like the reception with
You went
billions.
to a legit Vietnamese wedding, like a super traditional wedding. We, of course, included a lot of the Western kind of influences, the American things, but I thought it was really important since I'm the first kid in my family and on my side of the family to get married. And I think it's really important for my parents, and it kind of, helped my siblings a little bit, because when it's their turn, they won't have to go through that whole thing because they probably hate it. But I thought, for my parents, I'm going to do it. And I think I really loved it. To be able to include a little bit of your culture and your family's history into it, I think it's just so special.
Oh, yeah. And I think weddings are the perfect place to do that.
Yeah.
I know when I got married, we did several things that we might not have otherwise done, but because of tradition, and that's really important. But and then the food plays into that tradition, because I kid you not, I think, weren't we eating for like maybe 5 hours before the dancing even started? That was
my gosh.
a huge course.
7 or 8 courses, I think.
And that's part of the tradition as well, right?
Yeah, we want people to get well fed and to have fun and lots of liquor, of course. What kind of Vietnamese wedding or Asian wedding would it be without liquor? I don't drink a lot, but it's something that you need to do and have. And to be honest, if you didn't have that, and if you had a traditional Vietnamese wedding, the elders will make fun of you, and that will be something you'll hear forever, that you didn't feed people correctly, you didn't provide the alcohol, and it wasn't fun enough. People will remember that. They won't care what kind of flowers you had or what you wore that day, but they'll care about the food.
Oh, do you still have people coming up to you, either family members or any of the guests that were there, just really saying, "Oh, Vicky, oh man, that wedding, I still remember the time that blah."
They love the food. They love the DJ. I keep getting so many people emailing me, texting me, asking me who the DJ is, and I'm so excited because one of my best friends booked him and the photographer, basically everyone, and my hair person, for her wedding. And so it's going to be fun. I think I went to 2 weddings that he DJ'd and MC'd before we booked him. And so we just felt like, oh, we trust him. He's fun. He gets people off their feet. And the dance floor was always full. Always full. And that's kind of how you can tell if it's a good wedding. If everyone is off their feet, no matter how old they are, from all walks of life. If they're enjoying themselves on the dance floor, that's a good wedding.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's a good way to lose all the calories that you
that you're gaining.
I think I had to roll first to get the food in me just like evenly distributed. But no, that was.
And I'm so proud that you guys ate all that food, because it's probably one of the first times you've had some of those dishes, and so it's a whole cultural experience.
I know. Yeah, there was Boy, there was a lot of stuff. I think there was even lobster there.
Yes, lobster's a must. If you don't have lobster, they'll judge you.
There was like shark fin soup or something like that. Yeah. And everything was so delicious.
Thank you.
That's why I still remember that particular aspect of the wedding. Like your vows. Where did that happen? But
Yeah.
the food. Oh, the food.
Exactly.
Oh, I can tell you about the food.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was an awesome wedding, and then you had been with your now husband for 10 years, was it? I mean, you met him in high school.
Yeah, we met summer year going into my senior year of high school, and him too, actually. And I think that was 2006. It's hard to remember. 2006. It's 2019 now, so almost 13 years. So this September will be 13 years, and we've been married for a little over a year. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Time flies.
I know. It's so crazy.
So why, after all this time, you finally decided, okay, now is the time? What changed in your life that made you want to decide, okay, now's the time to get married and settle down?
Well, for sure, we've been together for so long. Some people would probably already thought we were married. But I was working in Santa Barbara when he proposed. And I knew that the end goal would always be to be able to work in Orange County or LA. I didn't want to live far away from him and then be married at the same time, even though I honestly think that it wouldn't have made a difference at all because the love is there, we trust each other, we care about each other, and it'll work. But I just knew that in order to be married, I wanted to be back home and living under the same roof. And so I knew my contract with KUIT in Santa Barbara was ending. And so after my contract ended, a month later, we got married. And so it just worked out, and the timing was right, I think.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Vicky is a reporter extraordinaire, I like to say. And she's worked in different markets. Now she's working in Los Angeles in that market. But before your stint in Santa Barbara, where were you?
I did a lot. So right before Santa Barbara, I was in North Dakota. But after I graduated from Cal State Fullerton, I worked for a cable channel owned by Time Warner, which is crazy because now I work for Spectrum, and it's kind of like going full circle. But I worked for a little cable channel in the city of Garden Grove, so my hometown in Orange County, and worked there for a year, and I love the people there. They went to my wedding, and they were on the same table with you guys. And then I worked for a Vietnamese TV network, Saigon TV. It's right in the heart of Little Saigon in Westminster, and they broadcast throughout the United States on cable and satellite, and in Canada and in Vietnam. And so with them, I hosted my own bilingual show. So they hired me because they thought, we need to get more young people to watch our network. We don't want just grandpas and grandmothers watching our station. We want young people to watch. And so I hosted my own show, and it was great because when you apply for a job, even if it's your first job out of college, they'll ask you, especially if you want to be a reporter, if you have any live TV experience. And I didn't have any live experience, but I had live to tape experience. So it's a one kind of go thing. You have to say everything that you would say if it was live, and that would make the producers and the editors' lives so much better. And so I did that, and both those two jobs, I worked there for a little over a year. And then I got accepted for a reporter position in Bismarck, North Dakota for an NBC station, KFYR-TV. It's a legacy station in the entire state. And so I was really lucky. I worked for your local news leader in North Dakota. And then I went to Santa Barbara for 2 years, and now I'm back home.
So growing up, were you ever a news junkie? Like, were you,
oh my gosh,
as a little kid?
You can't pull me away from the TV. I was so different, and I'm sure all of the news geeks out there could relate. Of course I watched cartoons like my siblings and my friends, but if I could choose, I would turn on KTLA in the morning, every morning before getting ready for school. And then when I got home from school, I'd watch Oprah. And then the 4 o'clock newscast for KABC, ABC7 would come on, and I would just watch that until I was done and with my homework and had to go to sleep. But I loved the news. I just thought, oh, it's so cool. These people are witnessing history, and they're telling me what's going on, and it just looked so glamorous. And I really looked up to a few people on local TV news. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. It'd be so cool to do that. And while all of my friends wanted to be doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, like all of the other Asian parents wanted, I was like, I'm going to be different. I'm going to be on the news. And I would tell all of my friends in elementary school, junior high, high school, I'm going to be on your TV set in LA one day. And I told them that.
And what were your parents' reaction to that? Your mom's reaction in particular. I mean, was it just no? You need to study to be a doctor. Or like, what was that attitude?
My parents are so different. You know, they are the first. They came here to America, and I guess I'm the first generation. You would consider me the first generation in my family. But when they had me when I was young, I think they knew that I would get into this profession because literally in elementary school, when I got home, I would tell my mom, I have to tell you what happened on the playground today. Every single day. This is what I learned. This is the new song that I learned. I have to sing it to you. And if she took her eyes off me for 1 second, I'd be like, Mom, I have to start all over again. And every single day at the dinner table, every single day. And so it was like having my own newscast. And so I think they realized it. And then...
Do you do it in a reporter voice?
No. In my little baby squeaky voice.
Yeah, can you imagine like 9-year-old Vicky coming to you live from the living room?
I wish.
Mom.
I wish. But I think they kind of figured that out. And then when I graduated from school, got an internship and started working, I think they were a little skeptical because they thought, oh my gosh, they're only offering you that much? And you went to college? We spent all that money and that's how much you're going to get paid? And it was kind of sad because as Asian parents, they didn't have any family friends that they could ask, hey, your daughter is also a reporter. What is it like for her? You know, because all of their kids are lawyers, doctors, pharmacists, and they had no one to turn to when it came to advice. And so they kind of just had to go with me as I went on this flow. And of course, they would always ask me like, why would they tell you to cut your hair? You know, no other job would do that. And why aren't any of these stations calling you? How come they're not offering you a job? And why are you getting paid peanuts? You know, but it's part of this life. But I think they understand it now.
Yeah. And, you know, the news industry is just... There's a certain belief, and I think even now there's a certain belief with people that aspiring journalists, I like to say, that feel that TV news is still in the golden era where you get paid a lot of money and you get this notorious or this celebrity status
No.
on TV, and I mean like the anchorman type era, and it's not really the case anymore. You kind of have to just do it because it's your passion, and in your case that is really your passion. You like telling stories, and there was a story that actually my wife is right here, and this was actually yeah, she's feeling a little under the weather. But I really want her to ask this question because it really comes from her, and I hate taking credit for stuff that's not mine. So Claire, come over here and ask Vicky the question you had, because I think this is a good insight of how Vicky works when gathering her stories out of passion.
Hi everybody, Claire here. So I saw on Vicky's social media this week that she interviewed an actor from Growing Pains.
Yeah, Jeremy Miller.
Yes, and I was like, Vicky, and it was a Los Angeles-based story. And I was like, oh, she's the Orange County reporter. I wonder how she got that story. So tell us how that developed.
Okay, so the story was mostly filmed in Santa Clarita, which is in the San Fernando Valley, but it had an Anaheim tie. And there has been times where I've covered stories in LA, but I love Orange County so much, and that's why I applied and accepted a position to cover Orange County. It's my home county, and I care about the people there. But with this story, I first found out about it because there is a company in Orange County, specifically Anaheim, right by the Angel Stadium. It's called BioCorrects, and they have this recovery program for people who are addicted to drugs, like hardcore stuff like heroin and alcohol. And they have been using this implant that many other countries are using, but for some reason in the United States, they're not using it that often. It's not this big thing. It's kind of like an underground thing, even though it's all legal. But they basically put this implant in the fatty part of your lower abdomen, and once it's in there, it can last up to a month. It could last up to 3 months, and it'll curb your cravings for alcohol and opioids. And so I thought, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. And then Now they got this grant to make it so they could get approved by the FDA, the U.S. Food and Agriculture Department, within the next 4 years. And if they do this, if they do get this approved, they could market it and sell it at a much lower rate. So instead of paying $1,000+ for one implant, you could buy this for a couple $100 with insurance if they get the FDA support. That means more people could potentially kick their addictions, right? And so I interviewed the CEO about this, and he kind of showed me what it looked like. It looks like a small piece of chalk, a used piece of chalk. And then I said, okay, but in order to do this story and get people to actually care and want to listen, you have to find a character for every single story. It doesn't matter if it's a hard-hitting news piece or a soft, fluffy piece. You have to get a character. And so I thought, okay, I need to find someone who has actually been a patient of theirs, you know? And so I was looking around and nobody wanted to share their story, because seriously, if you had an addiction to opioids, why would you want to tell people? Because it's something that you might be embarrassed and scared. And what if you lose your job? What if your neighbors start to shun you? Things like that. And so I started looking around, and then I found out that this actor named Jeremy Miller was a patient of theirs, and he wanted to shout on the top of his lungs, on the top of a mountaintop, to share this secret with people. Because he said with recovery programs, with peer support and therapy, if you just do that, you might be able to kick your addiction, but 90% of people who try to kick their addictions on their own fail. So he thought, if I get this implant, that could give me a push. And so he did, and it worked. And so he's been sober now for 3 years. His life is better. He's focusing on his family. His relationships with his children and his fiance are better. And I just thought, oh, this is an amazing story. Anyone who's struggling out there, this could be something that'll help you. And I think it's also important to remember that, sure, you are the one suffering when you're addicted to something, but the people who love you the most, they are the true victims. And so I thought this story could help them.
Yeah, no, and it was an awesome story. And
Thank
you. One of the things that I really admire about you is your news gathering process, because I have not seen anybody else do what you do.
Oh, no,
and
I'm sure there are plenty.
No, because you have this very, you're just very disciplined when it comes to time management.
Literally crazy. I think that's the real word you want to use. Anyone who has worked with me closely, you know.
Yeah, no, there was a point where I created a timeline based on all the stuff that you did when you worked in Santa Barbara, from when you first got to the station to how you gathered news and did your story, and then till the very end when you clocked out. And this timeline, I showed it to people, and they would not believe me when I told them that somebody, an actual physical person, did this. They just said, "No, this is impossible. This cannot be done." I said, "Well, Vicky's doing it, and this is based off her time management." So that's one of the things that I think you have that not a lot of people have, and that's, I think, helped you really succeed in your career, especially with stories like this one with Jeremy Miller. It takes, if you're an MMJ, mm-hmm. right? So that's a one-man band. You do it all.
Yep.
So it's not an easy story to get, but your discipline is, I think, what really has made you succeed in this field. Have you ever been like that since you can remember?
Yeah, I'm type A to the T. I try my best to not be that way, but I feel like it has worked for me. I'm a planner. I basically have planned my entire life, and if something doesn't work out, I always try to figure out a way to get to that point, no matter what. Even if I have to take back roads or whatever, I will get to that point. Once I set my mind to something, I just have to check that box, or else it's going to bother me. And I feel like in order to succeed, you have to know what you want to do, or if you at least know that you have to try to find ways to get to that point. You can't give up. You have to be self-sufficient. And especially as a multimedia journalist, you have to be self-sufficient out there. If you break a nail, no one's going to come and help you. You have to find that interview. It doesn't matter. And I have to say, knock on wood, I've never missed slot, ever, in my entire career thus far. I've never missed slot because that's just how I am. I will skip meals. I will even forget to go to the bathroom for an entire 9 to 10 hours because I'm so focused on getting this in. Because in the back of my mind, I think if I don't get this in, this is the chain. The associate producer is going to get in trouble. The producer is going to get in trouble. The executive producer is going to get in trouble because their show is going to tank, even though probably they'll have something else to put into my slot. But in my mind, I think there's this chain, like this long chain of people that if I don't get my stuff in, they're going to get in trouble. And I hate letting people down. And so no matter what, I will put my work first. And I guess that might not be so good if you're trying to balance work and life, but that's just how I am. I love to plan, and I feel more comfortable knowing that I have a plan to get to where I want to be.
So how much of this is just the way that you were born versus how much it is, being taught or instilled? Did your upbringing have anything to do with how you are as a great worker? I mean, you have this great work ethic. So how much of that is the upbringing that your family gave you?
I think it's a lot from my parents. I would have to say I'm so lucky. When I see a lot of my friends and see what their parents are like, I'm so lucky to have mine. My parents both came here from Vietnam separately. They didn't know each other then, of course, and my dad started working, doing assembly work in this small business, and he had this drive in him that he wanted to become his own boss. He is an engineer. And so he worked his way up and opened up his own business. And for a person who came to America with nothing, no money in his pocket, to be able to have his own business and to be a boss of more than 10 people, that's a big deal for him and for me. And then my mom, she had me at a very young age. She had me when she got pregnant when she was 18, had me when she was 19, didn't go to college. And so it was so important for me to go to college and to prove to her that, hey, just because you couldn't do it, I can do it for you. And with my mom, just the smallest things, like my mom was basically from kindergarten to 12th grade, she was only late one time in picking me up. One time. And my poor mom still beats herself up over it because it was a rainy day and my sister and I held hands and we thought, oh, it's been an hour. Mom still hasn't come. I think we need to walk home. And literally we live 0.3 miles away from school. But my mom just remembers that day and she keeps telling me that, oh my gosh, I was at this doctor's appointment and in my mind I was envisioning my poor two daughters drenched in water just walking home. And I think that's where I get the whole thing of never being late. I just can't be late. I just can't. Late for me is being on time, And so I think I learned those kinds of personality traits from my parents. That's who they are, and I just don't want to let them down either.
Oh no, I totally feel you on that because the way that my upbringing was. Involved my parents doing a lot of sacrificing on their part to get us through school and just through life in the small town of Santa Barbara. But one of the things that I really admired about my parents was the flexibility that they had to just allow us to be ourselves. But I just never really wanted to let them down either because I understood from an early age that they had sacrificed all these things that, now I have, along with my wife, things that they are just barely getting at this stage in life because they couldn't earlier because we were born. I'm the eldest of a bunch of four, pack of wolves.
That's probably why we get along.
And when I got to college, I worked. There was a time in my life when I was a full-time student in college, at the University of Santa Barbara, UCSB, and then I was working two jobs at that time. I was part-time working at the news station in Santa Barbara, and then part-time working a student job at the college. And I don't even know how I even survived. I mean, I think I must have only slept 4 hours a day or something like that. But it's just it all worked out in the end. But yeah, my fear was just letting my parents down and also failing at my job. Mm-hmm. And so I was asked once by a manager that wanted to hire me, and it was during the interview process. They asked me, well, what are you afraid of about this job? Or what about this job scares you? And that was actually the position for digital content director in Santa Barbara. So it was, I had always dabbled in social media, and I had a knack for it, but I had never actually done it in this professional way before.
Full time.
Yeah. And so I was asked, what are you afraid of? And I said, nothing about this job. The only thing is failing at it. And so that's going to propel me to do better. But I think that you're the same way. You just hate just falling flat. If something doesn't work, you make it work. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, what is there a story in recent memory that you can think of where things were not, you started the day and pretty soon you realized things were not going to be going that way, and you somehow made it work?
Yeah. So in the news business, we have this thing called Dayturns, right? You go in, you get an assignment, and you make it happen before your live shot. At Spectrum, things are a little bit different, but they're still considered day turns. So I'm not going to go live for the story that day. I'm going to go live in the morning. But they give you these assignments where you could get at a traditional news station if you just interview this one person. But in order to personalize a story in a way that I would feel like I did a good job, you have to find that character. And so this story came after the California governor, Gavin Newsom, said that he's going to sue the city of Huntington Beach because he believes that they have not met the requirements they have signed up for providing adequate affordable housing units for people in their community. So, for example, if you have 100 people living in your population, but if there are 20 people who are homeless, you need to provide an adequate amount of affordable housing units for those 20 people. And so in order to do that story, I reached out to the city attorney for Huntington Beach. He said yes right away, which I was so floored. I was like, what? You're going to say yes? Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you have no idea what this means to me. So I'm rushing there to get that assignment. But in the back of my mind, when I got this assignment, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to find a character for this story to make viewers care? Because if as a viewer, if you watch this piece and if you just heard from the city attorney, who cares? Like, that's boring, Okay, another city guy talking. But if you can get a personal story in there, then for some reason, heartstrings will be tugged when they watch this piece. And so in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to find these people? And it was raining that day. Big deal for Orange County when it rains. And I'm going around these apartment complexes, standing by the leasing offices. I don't have an umbrella. I'm wearing this rinky-dink raincoat that doesn't even fit me well anymore. And I'm going up to people, hey, do you live here? Okay, are you in the affordable units that they have? Because 10% of every unit in Huntington Beach has to have affordable units set aside. And so 90% of the residents there, they're paying full price, but 10% of them are not paying the full price. So I'm going up to people, hey, are you living in the affordable units? And people are like, no, I'm not. Oh my gosh, how can you say this about me? And other people ignored me. Other people ran away because who's this crazy woman standing outside the leasing office in the rain? And so I'm going around asking people, and I just think, you know what? I can't. And I called real estate agencies, real estate brokers. No one could help me because I needed them to help me now because I had to turn the story in 3 hours from that point. And I was going around and around, and then I thought, where would people go if they wanted to find a place to live? And so I thought, apartments.com? Zillow.com? No, that you still have to have a lot of money to rent because it's so expensive to live in Orange County and the rest of California. And so I thought, okay, let's go onto Craigslist. And you go into Craigslist and you click under apartment/housing, and underneath that there is, I think, seek housing. And so I just clicked on that option. And then I was going through the very first 5 posts, and there was a post saying, a 73-year-old grandmother looking for housing in Huntington Beach, Westminster, and Garden Grove. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. I hit jackpot. And so I clicked on her page, read her little bio or a little post thing. And it's about this woman who currently lives in Westminster, but she wants to stay close to the Vietnamese community. And so she wants to live in Huntington Beach. And so she also said she can only afford $350 for a single bedroom, and she's willing to do their dishes, do housework chores for them in order to get that one small bedroom. And I thought, okay, I'm going to call this lady. And a lot of people don't know this, but it's our job to be professional schmoozers. We have to basically be salespeople. And so I call this woman and I said, hi, my name is Vicky Nguyen. I work for Spectrum News 1 in LA, and this is who we are, what channel you can see us on. And I'm sorry I'm calling you because I found your post on Craigslist, and I'm so sorry I can't afford to help you out or offer you a bedroom, but I'm doing a news story about the city of Huntington Beach getting sued by the state, blah, 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 blah. And then I need someone to do a story on to talk about this topic. Do you mind if I interview you? This lady said yes. I had 2 hours before my deadline. This lady said yes to me. She doesn't owe me anything, and her story is so personal. I met her at a Starbucks, and she just told me, I live in this place, but the woman that I live with is so mean. She's stealing my money. She's an elderly woman. This is elderly abuse going on, according to her. And I just thought, okay, well, why do you want to live in Huntington Beach? And she said, well, you can film me if you want. And so I just filmed her, and she talked to me about how she is 73 years old. She's looking for a place to live, a place that she can afford. She's on a fixed income with Social Security, and this is all she can afford. And I asked her, well, if you have this amount of money, why can't you just rent a place? And she said, well, I've been on the Section 8 housing waiting list for 8 years. I have not been able to get in. Okay, so, how has your luck been in trying to find a place to live? And she said, well, all of these people are telling me that they don't want to take care of me because they're afraid I'm going to die in their homes, that I will become a burden to them. And in my mind was just blown. Wow. Because in my mind I thought, low-income families are probably the ones trying to get into housing, or veterans, right? But you totally forget that the elderly population, that's such a vulnerable population. And so she said yes. To make the story even quicker, I made slot, I turned it in, and it was great. I went live the next morning, and everybody was touched by my story, and people called me and emailed me and asked, how can I help this woman? People would say, I want to donate $100 to her. Please let me know how I can reach her. And so the power of media, it's insane. But basically this story led me to other stories and other stories, because I had no idea that elderly people were going through the situation.
So how does it make you feel when you do a story like this and you actually make a positive impact on somebody, on a life, on a person?
I just feel so proud that I can do this. A lot of people, when you talk to them about their job, they'll just say, oh, yeah, today was fine. Oh, my boss is so annoying or something, But with me, if you ask me, I'm just so pumped. I have so many stories I want to share with you, because I meet such incredible people that inspire me. And the one thing that I really do love about Spectrum is the fact that all of these stories that I'm doing, I pitched. I believe I've covered maybe 10 out of the X amount of stories that I've covered there that wasn't my own pitch. But everything else I pitched because I care about the community. One story leads me to the next, and I find things that are so interesting, and I just want to somehow change the world. It sounds very like Miss America, okay, that's so cliche, but seriously, I hope that with every story that I present to people, if there's one person that I can change or get them to open up their minds and want to help someone because of my story, that makes all the difference.
And one story idea for me.
Yes. And Claire, she was my assignment desk editor in Santa Barbara. I love her, and she still sends me stories to this day, and I still reach out to these people because I think it's a great story that I should cover, and I believe I've covered 2 or 3 of the stories that Clara sent me.
Actually, that brings up a point that I actually want to ask you about. Is it important? Well, just because you move from market to market doesn't mean you have to just forget about your relationship. So how important is it to continue those relationships to what you ultimately is going to be your career.
It's so important. All of the people that I was closest to in all of my previous markets came to my wedding. I believe that when you're in this industry, you need to be like a sponge, like really always be amped up to learn and meet people and learn from other people, because everybody comes from a different walk of life, right? My upbringing and your upbringing, totally different, but there are similarities, and I could learn from all of the situations that you went through that I didn't go through, right? And so I feel like it's the same thing when it comes to work experience. Everybody starts at a different level playing field, and everybody learns something. Everybody has made different mistakes, and so those have become lessons. And so every time I go into a different newsroom, I gravitate towards the people that I think have been through a lot, who have a lot of information and knowledge to share with me. And I think it's so important to be nice to people, and don't be fake, because people will know if you're fake, right? But really be genuinely interested in people. And I think that just makes me want to forever be their friend, and your friend, and Claire's friend, and John's friend. I think it's so important to just learn from people. Don't be in a box, because if you want to be in a box, you can't be in this field, because you need to be empathetic and open-minded when you go out on shoots and meet people that you interview. Same thing when it's inside the newsroom. Everybody has something to offer you, and you have something to offer them. And so I think it's so important to keep in touch with these people, because I feel like every single market that I've been to, every single job has taken me to the next. These people in the small cable channel in Garden Grove, I had zero experience. I was so green. They gave me a shot. They helped me put my reel together, and they launched me to my next offer, which was in North Dakota. I had other offers. I chose North Dakota. And so there I was close to Cliff Naylor, Megan Mitchell, and they launched me to my next station, which was in Santa Barbara. I was close to you, John, Claire, Jim, the news director. He, gave me a shot too. And he was different in a way where I felt like he respected me, and he gave me space to grow, make mistakes. And if I did make a mistake, he'll say something to me and let me know, but gave me enough room to learn on my own. And from there, he helped me, and you guys helped me get to LA. So I feel like all of the friendships and relationships that you make, and even mentorships in every single station, takes you to your next point. And so because you went to your next point and you make it in LA and Orange County, don't forget about the people who helped you before, because you wouldn't be where you are today without those people. Every single one of those people, everyone that I mentioned, helped me get to where I am today.
And I think that's where the wealth is, really, because like we were talking before, the money just isn't there like it used to be in the gold age of news, but now you get something different. You've gotten many opportunities to change a life through your work, and you've gotten to cultivate these friendships at these stations that you've been, that have helped you out in your current position. And so there's a sense of this is the wealth. I don't need to be this rich person when I have this. When I have these friendships and when I've changed people's lives. I really like that story of the elderly woman.
Odette. Her name was Odette. I'll
Odette.
never forget her. Yeah.
What a name. It's
I
like
know.
1950s name. Odette.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
She spoke fluently in English. She's this old Vietnamese lady. I was so surprised. Yeah, I'll never forget her.
And then, do you speak Vietnamese fluently?
I do. I'm so thankful that my parents made me speak Vietnamese. I'll tell you though, when I was growing up, I remembered my mom would talk to me in Vietnamese in front of my friends, and I would say, "Mom, stop doing that. You're embarrassing me." And I thought, don't say anything in Vietnamese in front of my friends. Please, don't. But then I realized growing up, and especially before I moved to North Dakota, I thought, Asian drivers. And I'm Asian, so I can say this, but oh my gosh, they suck at driving. I can't wait to get out of Orange County. I can't wait to move, because I hate waiting in line to go to this restaurant, and I hate Vietnamese food. I hate leftovers, things like that, right? Moved to North Dakota, where the Asian population was 0.001%, and totally changed my perspective on everything. And now I can't even be more proud to be an Asian American and to have all of the things that I've grown up with.
Did you feel like the move from your home in the OC to your first market, which was North Dakota?
North Dakota, yeah.
Do you feel that contributed to you really appreciating your upbringing and what you had in OC?
Yeah, because that was probably the first legitimate time that I lived alone. You know, I had my own apartment, paid my own bills, and before I paid my own bills, but I still lived at home, which, you know, you still had that safety net if you didn't think that you would have enough money for your phone bill that month. But to actually live alone, to find food on your own, and I told you in the beginning I can't cook, or I alluded to that fact, right? And so having to find your own food, fend for yourself, and you're so secluded, you're away from your childhood friends, from your parents, you're there alone. You start to realize, oh, it would be really nice to have a friend go with you to Walgreens or CVS today, you know? But over there, I couldn't get Vietnamese food. I couldn't get Asian food. You could, but the food there wasn't great at all, actually. Yeah. And I started thinking, I need to go to a nail salon because that's where I can find Asian people, you know? I'm not joking. And so I went to
that's awesome.
A nail salon, and I don't know why, but people always think that I'm not Asian. And so I'm sitting there and they're doing my nails. And I remember the first time I heard someone speak Vietnamese in months. And I thought, oh, I'm home, you know, in this nail salon. And so they were doing my nails. And eventually they'll ask me, they're like, wait, you're on TV. You're Vietnamese. We have the same last name. And I'm like, yeah. And we start talking. And then they invited me over for dinner. And this is so weird, you know, coming from Orange County in California where everyone is so on their own, doing their own thing. And, you know, you're nice to your neighbor, but like, do you ever go to your neighbor's house for lunch? That's weird, you know? That's weird for us Californians. And they asked me, hey, do you want to come over to our house? We're making like all this food, like all of these Vietnamese dishes. You should come over. And I thought, okay, yeah, sure. Like thinking that I should just be polite and say yes, right? And I remember like driving to their house that day. I thought, okay, I need to tell my boyfriend at that time, this is where I'm going to be. This is the address. I'm going to be at their house at this time. If I don't leave at this time, something happened to me, okay? Like, call 911. And so I go to their house, and they spoke in Vietnamese the entire time. So many dishes that I missed, you know? And it was just so amazing. And I thought, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I can speak Vietnamese to communicate with these people, and that being Vietnamese allowed me to make new friends in this state that I didn't have any friends beside the coworkers that I worked with.
You must have been in heaven.
Oh my gosh. I went there like once every 2-3 weeks, and, you know, then I saw them when I did my nails and stuff, and it was just great.
Do you still talk to them?
We're friends on Facebook. We'll like each other's posts and things like that. Occasionally, the mom who owned the nail salon will message me on Facebook and just say like, oh, hope you're doing well, happy Thanksgiving, and things like that. But I always said that I'll see them, but, you know, I just don't have time. But I'm so appreciative of them.
And so when you returned home after your your stint in North Dakota and then Santa Barbara, and you finally came home, what was your mom's reaction? Was it like, Vicky, you seem very different? Or what was the...
I loved eating leftovers. You know, before that, I'm like, Mom, I can only eat that meal once, and then tomorrow has to be something different. You know, like, I'm so picky like that. But
spoiled Vicky.
Exactly. Huh? But then I thought, no, I need to keep eating this. This is so good. When am I ever going to eat this again? And so I just became super appreciative. And I also learned that vanity is not everything either. Because in North Dakota, everybody, like on weekends, they wouldn't put on makeup. They wouldn't do their hair. They wouldn't change from their home outfits to go to Target. But here I was like, I can't leave the house unless I have makeup on, unless I have my hair done. But then seeing them and seeing how they lived their lives and how simple everything was and how happy they were at the fact that everything was simple changed me too. You know, back then, if I didn't go shopping every single weekend, I'd be upset. If I didn't buy at least one thing on that shopping trip, I would think my time was wasted. But now I realize there's so many different things that you should be thankful for. And every single market has taught me something like that, little life lessons.
One of the things that you actually were part of after you returned home to the OC was a documentary, right? PBS documentary.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was, I mean, I can tell you, Claire was crying at the end of this documentary.
Someone emailed me, one of my good friends. He said, I didn't know that they served onions at PBS.
Whoa. Well, it was so good. It was so good. I might have even cried a little bit, but I'm not going to admit that. But can you talk a little bit about that experience? Because it must have just been surreal. And it was a very personal project, too.
It's my mom's, basically our life story. So my mom was born in 1970 in Vietnam. Her dad, my grandfather, is white. He was from the United States. He was too old to serve in active duty, but he was a civilian. So he worked at the airport in Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh City, which back then it was called Saigon. He met my grandmother. They fell in love. And I'm sure everyone has heard these stories before and they think, oh, yeah, like the men, they just went over there, had children and just like, or had these relationships with women and they just left, like one night stands. But my grandparents' love story was different. They loved each other. They lived with each other for like 3-4 years. My grandfather didn't live on base. He lived with my grandmother. They got their own home together and had my mom. And in 1973, when the Vietnam War ended and the Americans had to retreat and go back to their home countries, he had to leave. And when he left, he asked my grandmother, come with me to America. And she said, no, my parents are old. I can't leave them. That would be disobedient of me. And so she stayed back, and he wanted to take my mom with him to America. But my mom said, no, what are you going to do with this infant daughter? How are you going to take care of her? And so my grandfather left, and my grandmother and my mom stayed behind. And for years, my grandfather tried to send money, send letters and things like that. But then the communist government would interfere and not give them anything. And so for a really long time, my mom grew up as a child with the face of the enemy. She didn't look full Vietnamese. She had to hang out with other kids just like her of mixed race in order to be kind of like a group to protect themselves. Because if you walked on the street without support, all of the full Vietnamese kids would beat you up, because they thought the Americans were the enemy, and anything that tied you to the Americans made you the enemy, including your face and your skin color and your hair color. And so my mom grew up always wanting to meet her dad, and all these kids would say like, oh, you should go to your dad's country. And she would say, I don't even know where he lives, But my grandfather left behind a tiny little passport photo. And on the back, he put his full name, Henry T. Lamb, Lamb. And he gave that to my great-grandfather on my mom's side. And this entire time, if the communists came to your house and if they saw anything that tied you to the Americans, you would be basically slaughtered. And so my great-grandfather held onto this photo and kept it a secret until my mom was about, I think, 13 or 14 years old. And because of this homecoming act, the Americans created this Congressman, Robert Mrazek. He created this thing because he thought, all of these kids that are Americans are stuck in Vietnam. We need to do something. And so my mom got to go to the Philippines and eventually America. But this entire time, she had no idea that my grandfather in America kept trying to sponsor them. He never forget them. 13, 15 years later, still didn't forget them. But my grandmother just didn't want to go because she was afraid he might have had a new family. So my mom, growing up, she kept telling us, oh, this is the story about your grandfather. You need to know about your history, your culture, because when I was a kid, I always wondered, why am I so light-skinned, and why don't I look like my friends? And so she would tell me the story, and being the person that I was and still am now, I was so curious. And so when Facebook was invented and, the internet was invented, they had all of these like chat rooms and forums. And so I would look up Vietnam veterans forums, and I would type up my mom's story, like, hi, my name is Vicky Nguyen. I'm the granddaughter of Henry T. Lamb. My mom is blah, 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 blah. This is where my grandfather was stationed, and this is their love story. Does anyone know where Henry T. Lamb is? And all of these people would email me and would say, oh, I don't know your grandfather, but here's this other site that you can go to and post your story there. And so I kept doing that over and over and over and over. I think I did this in like 2011, 2012. And then in 2016, October of 2016, while I was still in Santa Barbara, early in the morning as I was getting ready to go to work, I got this email from this girl named Rosie Pooley. And on the very bottom in her signature area, it said Blink Films, the UK. And I thought, this is so weird. I clicked on it, and she said she found my post on a forum in 2000 that was dated back in 2013, and they're working on a show. She wouldn't say who was going to air the show and what kind of show, who the host and narrator was going to be, but we're working on a show, and I saw your post, and it's so interesting that it's not the child looking for the parent, but it's the grandchild looking for the grandparent for their parent. And so she just thought, this is so interesting. When can we talk? And so for literally 3-4 months, with the time change and everything, I would have to wake up super early before work to Skype call Rosie. And she would ask these questions, and they basically wanted to vet us to make sure that the story was legit. My mom is actually this person, and this story is real. And so eventually they said, okay, we're going with you guys, because they interviewed all of these people, and they ended up choosing us to be part of this episode in a docuseries for PBS, produced and narrated, hosted by Ann Curry. And it's called We'll Meet Again. And it's basically connecting people who have somehow been pulled apart, disconnected because of a historical event. So in this episode, it was the Vietnam War. And so they interviewed my mom, they interviewed me, and that was it. And they connected my mom with her half-sister, which we knew she existed because Leslie was actually flown to Vietnam when Leslie was 18 to meet my grandmother while my grandmother was pregnant with my mom. And so we always knew that she was out there, but little me didn't know that Leslie could have been spelled a different way. I always thought Leslie is Leslie, but her name is spelled Lesley. And by then she got married and changed her last name. And so we couldn't find her.
Wow.
Sorry, it's a long story.
No. This is great. And it's an awesome documentary that I think everybody has to see. And we won't give away the ending, but there is a sense of closure, I should say, by the end of the documentary. There is a sense of closure. But yeah, so anybody listening to this, you just have to go and get it. So what's it called again?
We'll Meet Again on PBS.
There you go. And this group that basically originated this or kicked off this documentary project, was that on Facebook, or was it a different type of group on the internet?
They're called Blink Films, and they basically create shows. So a lot of shows are on BBC, a lot of UK networks, like big networks over there. And I think they also work with the National Geographic, the A&E. And so they basically make these shows, and then they sell it to big networks like PBS and say, hey, this is our show. This is the plot line. These are our characters. What do you think? How much do you want to buy this for? And so Blink Films were the ones who reached out to me first.
And so when they reached out to you, had they seen a post on social media?
All of my posts were all on veteran forums and blog sites, like old ones. If you were to go on there now and look for those posts, those websites still exist, but nobody posts on those pages anymore.
Wow.
And they're so old. Yeah.
Man, that's wow. It's really interesting that you can still find all this information out and about, like out there in the World Wide Web. It's I mean, social media has become like a big thing, like Facebook and Instagram, and that's where a lot of people are communicating nowadays, but you kind of forget that, you know, there's
like a grave sites of websites, basically.
Yeah. And a lot of times you never know, there might be something or somebody else on the other side that is going to answer you back.
They're still paying for that URL.
Exactly. Yeah, all these years after. And so on social media, at what point in your life did you actually get on social media?
I think my very first social media platform was Zanga.
Zanga?
Have you heard of that?
Vaguely.
It's like before Blogspot.
Is that before MySpace too?
I believe so. I believe so. So Zanga is like an online blog thing. So I love writing. I love reading.
Like LiveJournal?
Yeah, like LiveJournal. Even before LiveJournal. Zanga is XANGA.com. Zanga. And you would go in there and you can befriend people and you can post photos and write blogs. And so I did that. I would talk about, oh, this is what I did this weekend with my friends. Here's a photo. So like everything's accompanied with a photo. And so Zanga became LiveJournal. LiveJournal became Blogspot for me, and then MySpace, of course. And then
can't forget MySpace.
Facebook. Now all of this.
Yeah, I know. Now, MySpace, I think, was my first real social media account. I think I still have an account there, but it's evolved now.
I made sure all of mine are dead and gone.
Yeah, I forgot about it. To tell you the truth, I completely forgot about MySpace. I remember one time I just logged off and never again did I log back on. And then years and years later, it turned into this music site now. It's kind of weird. I'm from the old era where MySpace was like the latest and greatest thing. And then Facebook and Twitter came. And Facebook, I think at one point was just text-based.
Yeah, it looked so boring.
Yeah,
it was so, like, the screen or the whole page was white and the little bars were orange and blue for your friends and your little bio or something. I know,
like
that.
Like you needed a college email to
you couldn't personalize it like you could with MySpace if you knew how to do code. Yeah. It was really different.
Yeah, and with the most recent Facebook outage, what was that, like two days ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that time when it was just text-based, because a lot of people had trouble posting to it, but every now and then I was literally just sitting there on my computer, just clicking let's see if it goes through, let's see if the post goes through, and so every now and then it would go through, but it would only be the text that would go through. So I think my one and only post that day, while this whole Facebook site just went down, was Facebook is down. That was it. That was the only thing I could get out. And I don't even know if anybody saw it, because a lot of people were experiencing this issue. But you actually experienced a heavier issue than this with your social media account.
Oh, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're the only person so far that I know personally that this has happened to. I've heard about this, but. And I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, you think, oh, it's social media. Can't you just go outside and breathe and just talk to people? But I mean, there's if you're cultivating a social media presence, it's really important.
And if you're in this business.
Yes, exactly. So what actually happened to you? One day you just wake up, and then what happened?
Yeah. So at night, everything was fine. I did my routine check of all the different social media platforms I'm on, and everything was fine. Went to bed. Woke up in the morning, the first thing I do is check my emails, just in case if something came through the night before, if a breaking news happened. And I got an email, my personal Gmail account, that said that there was a suspicious login. Okay. And then I thought, okay, I wonder what happened. Check the next email, also from Facebook, and it said that I am no longer the owner of my professional page. So that's the page where I post all of my work stories, all of my Facebook Lives for viewers, and basically all of the history that started back from my first internship. So all of the stories from my internship days until present day. And so I thought, that's weird. Then I logged into Facebook. It didn't approve my password. And I thought, not even my personal Facebook page? No. So basically Facebook wiped out my personal Facebook page with all of my personal friends and all of that, all of the photos, and then my professional page. And I thought, well, okay, I'll just start a new Facebook page. Then I thought, maybe I should check my other social media platforms. Twitter, everything was okay. Everything looked normal and the same. Instagram, same issue. Wouldn't accept my username, wouldn't accept my password, nothing. I tried to change my password to see if I can log in again. No, nothing worked. And then I started asking people that I knew, hey, can you do me a favor and search me on Facebook and tell me what you see? People couldn't find me at all. It was like I didn't even exist. None of the work that I ever did exists anymore. None of the photos or videos that I've posted exist. Totally wiped out. I reached out to you. I was in training. It was like probably my first month or two at Spectrum, and I was just freaking out because I knew I was going to be in training all day long. No way was I able to handle this. And people at home, they might think, oh my gosh, social media, are you kidding me? Like, why do you care? here's the thing. Once it happens to you, you realize that all of these memories, all of these things that you did, and stupid me, I didn't back up all of the photos and videos that I posted and all of these URLs for my old stories. And so I thought, well, this is something big to me. This is my life. It's part of my career. So I reached out to you. You helped me try to regain everything back. But the weird thing with Facebook is you can't talk to a real person. You think you're talking to someone, they'll say, oh, my name is Phoenix. They'll give you some weird name like that. And it's not a real person on the other end. And so I believe it took close to a month or almost 2 months. And I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to reach out to, I think Oscar helped me twice. I tried to do it twice, and they still wouldn't say that they would reinstate my pages. They kept saying that I violated some guidelines, like posting something that would be terrorist related or, like something just horrible,
And didn't you track down the page? Like nobody else could search for your page or find your page, but then you could see it.
Yeah. And so that was the weird thing. Later on, I found out whoever hacked my page, there's an option to go into the settings where you can make your page, or you can hide your page from people living in certain countries. And so United States was one of them. And so whoever hacked it didn't want anyone from the United States to see my page anymore. But Bangladesh, India, those kinds of countries were able to see the page. And it was hacked by someone who posted like all these photos of women in questionable outfits and things like that. And I basically got the page back because the corporate people who handle media and digital for Spectrum Charter Communications had a real life representative that they talked to on a regular basis who was able to reinstate all the pages for me.
No,
that was crazy.
Yeah, no, that's great. But how were you able to find that page being in the U.S.? Because it was only you, I think, that was able to discover that.
Yes. And so what was weird is when you log into Facebook, if you have these pages, it'll appear on the left side panel of your page when you log into Facebook. And for me, I could still click on it, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't post anything. I can't delete a post. I can't ban anyone, but I could see the settings. And so once they reinstated my page, I was able to go in and look through the settings and saw that they blocked the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I ended up removing that and then started blocking India, Bangladesh, and all these other states and countries.
Yeah. No, well, yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. I
felt
hard.
like I lost like my arm.
Yeah. No, that's it's a horrible experience for anybody to go through. And like you said, it's you don't care until it actually happens to you. Mm-hmm. And then it turns into a big deal because now if when you get hacked, well, in your case, somebody posted things that weren't good.
No. And it's my brand, that
exactly.
they're posting all these weird stuff on.
Exactly. And it was, you were verified too on Facebook.
So it doesn't matter if you're verified or not. This can happen to you.
Yeah.
I don't know what they gained from getting my page, but it could happen to anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. The only Vicky Nguyen that kept coming up was the other Vicky Nguyen.
Oh, I always tell people because I still get messages from people saying, oh my gosh, you spoke at my son's school. You're so amazing. Or I love that story that you did. And then I'll sit there thinking, wait, I didn't talk to any school recently. And then I realize, oh, you're talking about her. That's the more experienced and more talented Vicky Nguyen. I came later in life, but she's amazing. She's in the Bay Area, NBC Bay Area.
Oh man! Now we got a Vicky Nguyen in the Bay Area, California, and we got a Vicky Nguyen in Southern California here. Yeah. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, Vicky, is there anything that we forgot to talk about?
I don't know.
Crazy stuff.
No, I'm kind of vanilla, really.
Which is my favorite flavor of ice cream.
Mine too. I always get made fun of, but that's okay.
Oh, same here, especially by Claire, who right now is giving me the stink eye. Yeah, but vanilla, it goes with everything. But like I said, lately I've actually been getting into the green tea ice cream. I told Claire, I said,
look at you venturing into like the rocky road of flavors.
Well, yeah, it tastes really good, especially with the way they served it last time, I even posted a picture of it on my Instagram account. Yeah, it's like the chocolate syrup and the almonds and the fruit. And I mean, it was just so delicious. I think it even had a piece of mint in there, but it was so refreshing. But I told Claire, I said, I think I found my second favorite. Well, it's a trade-off between first and second flavor ice cream. It's like vanilla and green tea.
That's a big thing to say.
Oh yeah. But whenever we go to the grocery store, we always kind of, I don't want to say fight because that's not the right word, but
bicker.
Yeah, exactly. Quarrel a little bit to take a turn from the 50s. Just about what ice cream we should get because she likes the ice cream that has all these.
She's adventurous. Let's say she's adventurous.
Exactly, and I'm always why don't we just get vanilla? And then for me to be adventurous, I think I would say
French vanilla now.
French vanilla, yeah, or vanilla bean. Oh, it's the big thing. Once I discovered vanilla bean, it was game over. But yeah, when you go to the grocery store with your husband,
that doesn't happen. Really, honestly.
Yeah, because you go out and eat, right? Yeah, but then when you do go to the grocery store, it's for what? Besides groceries, it's what do you need from the store that you usually go like, hey, I can't get this at a restaurant?
Oh, well, to be honest, if we do go into those weird spurts where we want to make food and meal prep at home, he'll go to the perimeters of the store. That's what you're supposed to do. That's where you get your vegetables and produce, things like that. I go to like kombucha, chocolate vanilla pudding. Kombucha.
Did you like that stuff?
Certain flavors.
Oh man.
Certain flavors, but I'll go to like pudding, things like that. I don't really go into the aisles that you're supposed to go into.
Well, actually remember, because Jolly cooks, so I remember that you used to bring these meals for the week from Jolly.
Yeah, we went through those spurts. And then when I was home, after we got married, went on our honeymoon, and then I wasn't working for like 6 months or so, I actually made meal preps. And he never complained. He never said they tasted bad or anything. So I think I can do it. I just don't like getting my hands dirty. Like, so if I have to touch dirt or dirty things for work, I'm all about it. I'll do it because it's for work. But if it's for cooking, constantly had to wear gloves or wash my hands. I just feel like I have bugs on my hands or something. It's so weird. There must be some sort of name for this phobia, of not wanting to cook and trying to find every single excuse not to cook.
Well, there's only certain things that I can make. Claire can cook, really good stuff in the, in the oven, the stovetop. She can bake really great things. But for me, I can do the grill very well,
Yep.
and then I can make breakfast, really like a really good breakfast. And actually, the breakfasts that I make are not really Mexican breakfasts. There's everything that I cook is basically things that I've seen on movies. Because I grew up watching, American cinema. My parents would watch the Pedro Infante movies, the Cantinflas movies, these old Mexican films, and I like them. I like them too. I like them now. But the movies for me were just a big deal in introducing me into this American culture. Did movies play a part in the way that you saw life? In either SoCal or just here in the U.S.?
Well, I love movies. We love going to the movies. We used to go like every weekend. Now we go whenever we have time. But I feel like movies made me the kid that I was when I was afraid of my mom speaking Vietnamese. Because you thought, well, none of the characters in movies spoke Vietnamese, and no one did this, no one did that. And so it always made me think that I should be like them, those movies that I'm watching as a kid. Now, as I'm a lot older, I realize that that's a different reality, and you don't have to be a part of that mold. And so I think because of the movies that I've watched, because of the people that I've seen in movies, I realize how important representation is. You know, not saying that every single movie has to be Crazy Rich Asians. You know, I'd prefer to see
Good
different
movie.
colors in
Good
movie.
films
and things like that. But I feel like it's so important. And even when I go out, if someone sees me and they're just like, "Oh, I've never seen an Asian person in your field before. I've never met someone in your field."
They actually tell you that?
They'll say that, especially in North Dakota. You know, when are you going to see an Asian reporter on your TV screen in North Dakota? Yeah, and so I think movies made me think more about representation and what it means to people.
Yeah.
Did that also kind of play a part in how you are as a journalist? Did you feel like pressure to be a journalist that represented this hidden voice, or a journalist that was like all the other journalists? They just wanted to fit in. Like, how did
I think it's really made me to go out of my way to find people to interview or focus stories on that you would not typically interview. You know, so if I knew that this story is based in a Latino population, I would go there, even if I didn't speak the language, because I know that that's where the story happened. I need to get a person of color to be a part of this. And I've tried to cover a lot of stories that represented what Orange County really is. Because people think about Orange County, they think about beaches, palm trees, rich housewives, right? But Orange County is so much more. There are poor kids living in motels, you know, people who work for big corporations and they don't get paid well and they're homeless. And so I try my best to interview people and cover the stories that you would not typically see that amount of coverage on any other channel. Yeah.
And finally, I want to end the podcast with just on a lighter note and just talking just something about you. What is your biggest pet peeve?
I feel like there's so many things that in the moment I'd be like, "Oh, I hate that." Pet peeve.
There can be more than one, too. Sure.
Okay. Just mean people. Mean people who, you know, make you feel like there's something wrong with you, and they make you kind of like loathe yourself. Because I think there really is no room for that in the world. Everybody has so many different things going on in their lives, good things and bad things, that's just negativity that you don't need. So mean people. I guess mean people. Mean people.
Yeah.
Lazy people. Lazy people, mean people. And just not giving people recognition. So, for example, news directors, when you apply for a job, you know, you go through and put so much effort into your reel, your cover letter, things like that, and email. You know, you like seriously craft things to the T. But then they don't reply, even if they don't like you. Can you just reply and say, "Sorry, no," or even "no," you know? And that's the same with text messaging. If I'm texting you like a couple sentences hoping for a reply, just because you agree doesn't mean that you should just not reply at all. At least say okay. So I think people who don't reply well through text messages and emails, mean people and lazy people. 3 things.
Yeah, that's a good combination there. Oh man, well, one of my biggest pet peeves is talking when you're hangry. So we're gonna end it here because we're gonna go and have dinner. You're gonna be joining us, of course.
Yeah. What time is it? Yeah, dinner time.
Oh yeah, dinner time. And we are recording here from a little motel in Claremont because we're doing NASCAR weekend. Well, there's NASCAR this weekend, and this is a good place good little studio setup here, portable studio setup. But yeah, so we're gonna go eat before I get hangry. So Vicky, thank you for joining us on this podcast. And that was Vicky Nguyen. I hope you enjoyed that interview as I did. I really want to thank her again for taking some time out of her busy schedule and sitting down with me for this chat. If If you want to follow her on social media, she's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just look for the handle Vicky Nguyen News. Send your comments and questions to hangrymexicanpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll read some of those responses on the show. And if you loved this podcast and this episode, please subscribe to it, tell your friends, and rate it with positive reviews. And it's available wherever you get your podcast. We're on Apple Podcast, Google Music Store. We're on Spotify, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, good night and good luck.